So, the best case scenario is roughly a year from now, scheduled, not started, the Herald will cease to be a dead ship. Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. In today's show, we're talking about the Herald. Now, the Herald is a particularly bizarre story because this is a ship that originally started out as an asymmetrical design, and then all of a sudden, I guess, new art came up from Jim Martin that was not asymmetrical, and then Chris Roberts immediately put out feelers. He's like, what would you guys think if I changed the ship? And of course, there was a lot of people who had already bought the Herald who were like, no, I like the Herald asymmetrical. But I guess enough people were putting up an opinion out there that, hey, you know, I'll take a symmetrical Herald over an asymmetrical Herald. And so all the people who had already bought it, who liked the asymmetrical design, kind of got screwed on that deal. And it was like, well, then we're changing it to symmetrical. Good enough. I have a mandate now. Let's change it. Not the greatest beginning. Now, the Herald actually went through a pretty interesting process of start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. As work was being done on other ships and resources were needed to complete those ships, the Herald seemed to keep bouncing in and out of limbo, whether or not it was going to be produced. And all along the way, it was getting minor updates and minor changes to its design as they were trying to figure out how to make the antennas work. At one point, CIG even put out some test art with different antenna configurations, kind of putting out feelers to see if people would accept different antenna configurations to see which one would do better with the community. And overall, the Herald that we got, I would argue, is pretty decent. I preferred the asymmetrical design, but I genuinely liked the design as it stands now. The only real problem I still have with the Herald in terms of like outward appearance is that bubble on the nose. The bubble on the nose is probably the ugliest part of the Herald, and I would argue to chop that off and make the nose flat front like every other Drake ship. I mean, that rounded bubble just has no place there. You can't see through that window anyway, so it serves no purpose other than art just for the sake of art. And it really looks completely out of place on this ship. But those are my eyes looking at it. You may see it differently. Now, while the building of the ship was indeed difficult and fraught with some challenges, unfortunately the game itself faced even greater challenges, and so ultimately, though the Herald was delivered as a flyable ship, none of the game systems that would make it a playable ship or a viable ship in the game have yet been brought to life. And data running, which is the first of those to really see any real production, is still probably at least a year away. Now, two of the other things that the Herald is supposed to be good at, which are e-war and hacking, and CIG has mentioned this several times, are two careers that have yet to show up on the roadmap. So realistically, most of what the Herald can do and most of what the Herald is designed around has yet to even appear on the roadmap, making this what I call a dead ship. Now, the Herald does come with a strong list of internal features. It does come with a bed. It does come with storage for weapons and armor. These are really strong features to have on such a moderately priced ship, being that it was originally sold for $90. Or actually, no, it was sold for $85 originally, and then it went up to $90. But the Herald's biggest problem is that it was never designed as a direct combat vessel. This is more of a support ship in its e-war role in terms of combat. And since e-war has never materialized, it really has very little utility in combat as it stands right now. In the end, the Herald's biggest problem is that it is a very niche ship, in that there are very few ships out there that'll probably be able to fulfill the roles that the Herald does. And since the Herald is technically the only game in town, it's very difficult to say to CIG, hey, you know, you should put this stuff to the front of the line so we can get this one ship and all its systems working, versus systems that CIG is currently working on, which apply to a much broader swath of the ships currently flyable in Star Citizen. At the same time, can't really ask for combat buffs, because in the end CIG would simply have to claw those back once the Herald's other systems are brought online, which generally, when you try to take things away from people, the reaction is quite negative. And then you're also, once again, you're doing a bunch of work to temporarily benefit a ship, which will see its benefits in time. So the Herald is kind of stuck in limbo right now. Now, does that mean ultimately that the Herald is a bad ship, or that if you own the Herald, it's basically useless? No, it does not. But the Herald does have some unfortunate limitations. Because you use a ladder to climb up into the Herald, you can't really carry a crate into the Herald to use it to run various missions, even if you can simply place that crate somewhere loose within your ship. Additionally, its combat power is severely limited. You could learn to use it, you could develop yourself as a pilot and learn to work with its weaknesses to use it as a bounty hunting ship, but the truth is that there are better ships available for less money that can do more in combat than the Herald can, because the Herald was never really designed as a direct combat ship. So it kind of puts it in a really awkward position right now. But does that mean that the Herald is ultimately a bad ship? The Herald ultimately isn't a bad ship. What it is it's a ship that's stuck in limbo right now, waiting to be a good ship. There are still some strong features, and we've talked about them, you know, the bed, the ability to store things, the gun rack, all these things which can come in very handy. The problem is all the stuff that completes the package has yet to be realized. So it is a good ship in time. That's how I would refer to it. If you add in the dimension of time, it is a ship waiting to be good. The ultimate question, I think, in regards to the Herald is, when are the pilots going to start to see a return on their investment? When are they going to start to see this ship actually become fruitful and meaningful within the Star Citizen universe? When it stops being a nice hangar decoration and something fun to fly around with and make videos of, and something that actually does the job and earns money. The truth is that Q1 219 might be a little bit ambitious. As we've seen, the quarterly schedule is fluid and things do tend to slide, and the work for data running is scheduled. It has not been started. So it's tough to say if that is going to be something that survives on the schedule, or if that is going to be something that is seen as not a priority. Because in the end, the one ship that it ultimately affects, even though there are other ships within Star Citizen that could conceivably be data runners, I mean, technically any ship with a computer and any kind of data storage could render at least some of that profession. In the end, it's ultimately the Herald that is the data runner, and it is only one ship out of a myriad of ships that you can buy. And so I think that the other ships, the broader swath of ships within the Star Citizen universe, are always going to take priority, and data running is going to be seen as something that can be pushed down the schedule to accommodate something else should it take longer to complete. When you look at the roadmap and you see things like salvage, repair, refueling ahead of data running, of course they are. These are things that affect a lot more ships and a lot more players. But data running is up there, and you'll notice that hacking and E-War are two things that have yet to appear on the roadmap. So at the very least, I think you can say that data running is high enough on the priority list that it is going to be something that is going to be addressed, and not something that is going to be left as a we'll get around to it when we get around to it type thing. So it is going to be a tough slog for the next year for anyone who owns a Herald and only a Herald, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I think. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.